The once vibrant cities of Earth now lay in ruin, smothered in the dust of destruction. Towers that had once touched the clouds were now little more than shattered bones of a dying world. From the bridge of her warship, Revenant, Captain Jenna Riker stared at the wreckage below, her face a mask of steel. The Earth she had known, the one where her family had lived, was gone. "Captain," a voice crackled through the comms. "We're receiving orders from command." Orders. The last remnants of Earth's government, holed up in some underground bunker, no doubt, still had hope. They had hope because they had her. "Patch them through," Jenna said, her voice steady, betraying none of the storm inside her. The familiar voice of Admiral Stone filled the bridge. "Captain Riker, your mission is clear. We cannot survive if we remain on the defensive. The GR-Lock will return, and when they do, they will wipe us out. We've authorized the counteroffensive. You are to take the fleet, strike deep into GR-Lock territory, and ensure this never happens again. We rise now, or we fall forever." Jenna's gaze flickered to the destruction below, her thoughts drifting to the memories she barely allowed herself to hold on to anymore. Her mother's voice, soft and comforting, gone. Her brother's laugh, now just an echo in the halls of her mind. She'd lost them all when the GR-Lock attacked, and yet here she stood. Breathing, while they did not, she could not afford to fail. "Understood, Admiral," she replied. "We'll take the fight to them." The transmission ended, leaving only the low hum of the ship's systems and the distant murmur of her crew preparing for war. Jenna's eyes scanned the holographic display before her, a map of the stars, with the heart of the GR-Lock Empire pulsing in angry red at its center. The GR-Lock believed humanity was nothing more than an insignificant speck in the galaxy. They had attacked Earth with cold, calculated brutality, wiping out millions without a second thought. Now, Jenna would show them that specks had teeth. "Exo, prep the fleet," Jenna ordered, turning to her second-in-command. "Full combat readiness. We leave in 3 hours." The officer nodded, but hesitated. "Captain, are you sure we can take them on? They've beaten us every time." Jenna's eyes hardened, her voice cutting through the air like a blade. "They may have knocked us down. But they haven't met us yet, not like this." The officer saluted, disappearing into the chaos of the bridge as the crew snapped into motion. Jenna remained where she stood, staring at the stars that would soon become the battlefield. Her heart was cold, fueled by a fire that had burned ever since she watched her world die. This wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about domination. The jump into GR-Lock space felt like plunging into the belly of a beast. The vastness of the alien system stretched before them, stars glittering coldly in the void. From the bridge of the Revenant, Captain Jenna Riker watched as her fleet emerged from hyperspace, sleek ships gliding like predators through the darkness. This was no longer a mission of defense, it was the beginning of humanity's retribution. "Status report," Jenna commanded. Her voice steady but laced with an edge of anticipation. "Fleet is holding formation, Captain." "No signs of enemy ships yet," her XO responded, eyes scanning the holographic display. A map of the GR-Lock system floated before them, the coordinates of their target glowing ominously. Jenna's fingers tightened around the edge of the control panel. The target was a GR-Lock outpost, small, but strategically critical. Its destruction would send a message. "They're out there," she muttered, more to herself than anyone else. "They always are." As if on cue, alarms blared through the ship. The sensor screen flared to life, showing the unmistakable signature of GR-Lock vessels, sleek, jagged shapes moving in fast. The enemy had arrived, multiple contacts inbound. "It's a GR-Lock defense fleet, larger than anticipated," the tactical officer announced. Jenna's heart raced, but her expression remained as hard as the hull of her ship. "All hands to battle stations. Prepare for engagement." The GR-Lock ships swarmed in, a storm of black metal and glowing plasma. Jenna's fleet moved into formation, a wall of firepower bristling with deadly intent. She felt the tension in the air, the fear crackling beneath the surface. They were outnumbered. And for some, doubt crept in like a shadow. Captain, the XO hesitated, we're going to be cut off if we don't retreat. Their numbers, Jenna's gaze snapped to him, her eyes cold as steel. Retreat is not an option. We came here to make a statement. We came here to win. She turned back to the battle unfolding before them. The first wave of GR-lock ships opened fire, blazing streams of plasma streaking through the void. The Revenant shuddered under the impact, shields flaring. The human fleet returned fire, unleashing torrents of energy that cut through the blackness of space. Target their command ship, Jenna ordered, her voice sharp. We take that down, we break their formation. The Revenant surged forward, leading the charge. Jenna's eyes narrowed as she tracked the enemy flagship, a towering behemoth of alien design. Her fingers danced over the controls, coordinating the fleet's assault. The battle was brutal, ships exploding in silent bursts of flame as they were torn apart by relentless fire. Every second felt like a lifetime, shields at critical. Someone shouted from the pit. Jenna ignored the panic around her, focused only on one thing, victory. With a final command, she unleashed the full fury of the Revenant's weapons. The GR-lock command ship shuddered, its shields collapsing before it detonated in a blinding explosion. The enemy fleet faltered. Now, Jenna whispered, her voice like ice. Crush them. And so, humanity drew its first blood. The silence of deep space stretched out before the Revenant as it cut through the cold, dark void. The victory at the GR-lock outpost had earned humanity its first taste of hope, but there was no celebration aboard the ship. The weight of the dead hung heavy on everyone's shoulders, ships lost, friends gone in the blink of an eye. Captain Jenna Riker stood on the bridge, her gaze fixed on the stars ahead. But her mind was miles away, she didn't dream anymore. There was only the mission. Captain, her XO interrupted her thoughts, voice cautious. We've received new intel. Command wants us to push deeper into GR-lock territory. They're sending us after their supply lines. Jenna nodded without turning. The void ahead was endless, but beyond it, at the heart of the GR-lock empire, lay their true target. It's the only way, she murmured. We keep hitting them, keep them off balance until we can strike the heart. The XO hesitated, choosing his next words carefully. The crew. They're exhausted. The losses at the outpost hit them hard. Jenna finally turned, meeting his eyes with a cold, unwavering stare. We don't have the luxury of exhaustion. Every minute we wait, the GR-lock are rebuilding. We strike now, or we lose everything. He nodded stiffly, understanding the gravity of the situation but feeling the weight of their dwindling morale. I'll prepare the fleet, Captain. As he left, Jenna allowed herself a moment of vulnerability. Her hands clenched the railing, knuckles white. She didn't let it show, but she felt it too, the growing fatigue, the doubt gnawing at the edges of her resolve. Her crew was loyal, but for how long? How long before the cracks began to show? Captain Riker, a voice broke through her thoughts, this time a different tone, laced with arrogance. Jenna straightened, her expression hardening. Who's transmitting? The tactical officer tapped a few buttons. Incoming message from the GR-lock. They want to talk. Jenna's eyes narrowed as the face of the GR-lock general appeared on the screen, his features a twisted, reptilian sneer. Humans, he spat, the word dripping with disdain. You think one victory makes you strong? You're nothing. A dying species clinging to a ruined world. We will break you, as we did your planet. Jenna's jaw clenched, anger surging like a wildfire. But she didn't let it show. We're not here to talk, GR-lock, she said coolly. We're here to finish this. The general's laughter echoed through the bridge. You're fools. Do you really believe you can stand against the full might of the GR-lock empire? We are endless. We will erase you from the stars. Jenna's fingers twitched near the controls, tempted to cut the feed. Instead, she leaned closer, her voice ice-cold. You underestimate us. That was your first mistake. It'll be your last. The screen went dark. The tension in the room thickened as Jenna turned back to her crew, her gaze fierce. We move forward. Prepare the fleet for the next jump. The GR lock won't know what hit them. As the stars blurred into streaks of light, the Revenant plunged deeper into enemy space. The void was vast, but Jenna's determination was vaster still. They had drawn first blood. Now, they would carve a path straight to the heart of their enemy. The Revenant drifted in the shadow of a dying star, its hull scarred from battle, systems struggling to stay online. The once proud flagship of humanity's counteroffensive now limped through enemy space, held together by little more than grit and desperation. Captain Jenna Riker paced the bridge, tension radiating from her in waves as her crew worked frantically to repair what they could. How long until the hyperdrive is back online? Jenna demanded, her voice taut, masking the exhaustion weighing down on her. The chief engineer glanced up from his console, wiping sweat from his brow. 2 more hours, Captain, if we're lucky, Jenna cursed under her breath, her eyes darting to the star map flickering on the main display. They had struck the GR lock supply lines hard, crippling their ability to resupply the front, but the cost had been steep. Half the fleet was gone, reduced to burning wreckage in the black void. The rest, barely functional, drifted aimlessly as the GR lock regrouped. Captain, the XO called out, his voice low, but urgent. We're picking up multiple GR lock signatures closing in fast. Jenna's blood ran cold. She stepped toward the tactical display, her eyes scanning the readings. A wave of GR lock ships, too many to count, were converging on their position. They had been hunting the Revenant, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, and now they had found it. We can't fight them off in this condition, the XO said quietly, a grim resignation in his voice. Jenna's jaw clenched. The crew's eyes were on her, waiting for orders. They were outgunned, outnumbered, and battered to the breaking point. But Jenna Riker had never surrendered. Not when Earth was burning, not when her family was lost. She wouldn't start now. Patch me through to the fleet, she ordered, her voice calm, but steely. The comm officer nodded, and moments later, Jenna's voice rang out across the remaining ships. This is Captain Riker. We've fought hard, and we've bled for this moment. The GR lock think they've cornered us. They think they've broken us. But they're wrong. She paused, feeling the weight of her words. We may be battered, but we are human. We don't bend. We don't break. Not here. Not today. If we're going down, we're taking as many of them with us as we can. A murmur rippled through the bridge, a faint echo of hope sparking to life. Jenna turned to the tactical officer. Prepare all remaining weapons. Divert everything we have to the forward batteries. The officer hesitated. That will drain our reserves, Captain. We won't have enough power for a jump even if we get the hyperdrive back online. Jenna nodded. I know. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. This was a death sentence. But Jenna Riker didn't flinch. She stared out at the stars. Her mind flashing back to the moment she had seen Earth's cities burn. There had been no mercy then. There would be no mercy now. All ships, prepare for a full assault. We're going out on our terms. The GR lock ships loomed closer, but Jenna felt only calm. In the vast emptiness of space, there was still one thing left to do. Fight. The black expanse of space rippled with the approach of the GR lock fleet, their warships forming an ominous crescent around the battered remnants of humanity's forces. On the bridge of the Revenant, the air was electric with tension, the crew silently awaiting the inevitable. Captain Jenna Riker stood at the center, her gaze fixed on the tactical display as the enemy closed in. Her fingers brushed against the worn metal of her command console, as if drawing strength from the ship itself. Captain, they're nearly in range, the tactical officer reported, his voice tight. Jenna didn't blink. Hold fire until they're close. We can't waste a single shot. The GR-lock ships, hulking and jagged, advanced with the predatory grace of apex hunters. Plasma cannons hummed to life, casting a sickly glow over their hulls. This was the endgame, and everyone aboard knew it. There would be no escape, the comm crackled to life. Fleet-wide transmission from the GR-lock, Captain, the communications officer said. It's their general. Jenna's jaw clenched as the cold, reptilian voice of the GR-lock commander filled the bridge. Humans. This is your last chance to surrender. Lay down your arms, and we may spare those who remain. Resist, and you will all die. A hush fell over the crew, eyes flicking to their captain. The weight of the decision pressed down on Jenna like a physical force. She could hear the unspoken question in their gazes. Is this the end? But Jenna Riker had never been one to surrender. Cut the transmission, she ordered, her voice ice-cold. The signal died, and Jenna turned to her crew. Listen to me, she said, her voice clear and unwavering. They want us to believe this is over. That we're finished. But they don't know what we're capable of. She paused, her gaze sweeping across the faces of her officers, each one battered but unbroken. We've fought too hard to give up now. We're going to fight, and we're going to make them bleed for every inch they take. No matter what happens, they will remember us. We will not be forgotten. A grim determination settled over the bridge. The fear that had lingered moments before now hardened into resolve. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about legacy. The enemy fleet was nearly upon them. The forward GR-lock ships opened fire. Streams of plasma lancing toward the Revenant. The ship shuddered as the first impact rocked its shields. Return fire. Jenna shouted, the human fleet roared to life, unleashing a barrage of missiles and energy beams. The Revenant's guns fired in unison, battering the GR-lock ships with everything they had. Explosions rippled through space as enemy vessels erupted in flames, but still, the GR-lock pressed forward. We've breached their outer defenses. The tactical officer called out. But more are closing in. Jenna's heart pounded, but she stood firm. Focus fire on their command ship. We take that out, and we cripple their coordination. The crew obeyed, firing relentlessly. The Revenant rocked under the strain of constant bombardment, but Jenna refused to waver. She could see the enemy command ship now, a massive, twisted thing of metal and malice, its glowing core vulnerable. Fire everything we've got. Jenna commanded, her voice rising above the chaos. In a final, desperate surge, the Revenant's weapons locked onto the command ship and unleashed a devastating barrage. The alien vessel shuddered, its shields flickering before collapsing entirely. Jenna watched as the ship erupted in a brilliant explosion, its debris scattering through the void, but as the command ship fell, so did the Revenant. Systems flickered, power drained, and the ship began to drift, crippled beyond repair. Jenna stood in the dim light of the dying bridge, her breath steady. We did it, she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. They had made their stand. The Revenant hung lifeless in the black expanse, its once powerful engines now silent, the faint glow of dying systems barely illuminating the bridge. The wreckage of the GR-lock fleet drifted around it like the shattered remnants of a broken empire. Silence filled the void, a stark contrast to the furious battle that had raged only moments before. Captain Jenna Riker stood at the center of the bridge, the air heavy with exhaustion and the weight of what had been lost. Her crew, bruised and battered, remained at their stations, too stunned to speak. They had won, but at what cost? A deep shudder passed through the ship as the final flickers of power gave way. The emergency lights cast an eerie glow over the bridge, and Jenna's gaze shifted to the view outside. Among the wreckage of their enemies, the human fleet was no more. The ships that had once carried humanity's hope for victory were now silent, floating tombs. They had fought their last fight. We're dead in the water, Captain, the XO said softly, breaking the silence. No power, no comms, nothing. Jenna nodded slowly, her eyes distant. How many made it? Out of the entire fleet. We're the only ship still intact, the XO replied, his voice thick with the unspoken grief of what that meant. Survivors, minimal. A knot tightened in Jenna's chest. She had known this mission was suicidal from the start, but knowing and facing the aftermath were two very different things. Her mind drifted back to Earth, the cities now abandoned, the fields gone quiet. This was never just a battle for territory. This was a fight for humanity's survival, and yet, the galaxy had felt their fury. They hadn't gone quietly into the night. We've crippled the GR lock, she said, her voice hard but carrying a note of pride. They'll be licking their wounds for a long time. The XO nodded, but the victory felt hollow. But will it be enough, Captain? Is anyone left to capitalize on it? Jenna didn't answer immediately. She stared into the void, feeling the crushing isolation of deep space pressing in. The future felt uncertain, distant, like a shadow just out of reach. But even now, as the Revenant drifted toward its inevitable end, something flickered within her, a stubborn ember that refused to go out. We're not done yet, Jenna said, her voice low, but firm. As long as we're breathing. As long as this ship has air, we're still in this fight. The XO frowned. But how? There's no one left, and we're stranded. Jenna met his gaze, her eyes burning with that old defiance. They think we're finished, that we've been wiped out. But humanity, we're not that easy to erase. Somewhere out there, others are still fighting, still surviving. A faint crackle broke over the calm, weak and distorted, but unmistakable. The XO's eyes widened, and Jenna felt her pulse quicken. It's a signal, he said, scrambling to isolate the frequency. It's faint, but it's human. Jenna leaned in, her heart pounding. Patch it through. The static cleared just enough to hear a voice filled with hope. This is Eden Outpost. If anyone is out there, we're still here. We're still fighting. Jenna allowed herself a small smile, a rare thing in these dark times. We're not done, she whispered, humanity's flame still burned.